When I first crossed the threshold of Catalhoyuk, I felt as if I was entering a different dimension, a place which was going to change me. During summer 2007, I was the artist in residence. I had a desk at the laboratory, a laptop, and tons of database to go through. One morning, Duygu welcomed me with the news of a new founding. Some images carved on plaster had been excavated. They were placed around the walls of a ditch with some burials. The ditch formed a small space, a rectangle of 190 centimeters on the western and eastern walls and 105 centimeters on the northern and south walls. It was unburied by the polish team. The plaster is a strip about 30 centimeters wide, and it goes all the way across the ditch, horizontally, covering the south, west and north walls. There is no design on the east wall. It is placed at about 40 centimeters from the present floor, where a burial was found. The removal of the human remains and further digging will not take place until next year, when the polish team will return. Meanwhile, to protect it, it will be buried again with gravel. Ian suggested that I should make a drawing of it. I have never been very good at making complete drawings of interiors, let alone a ditch that, to be seen as a whole, had to be seen from above, thus from an awkward perspective. However, the design on the strip was so appealing that I wanted to have a go at it. At the same time, Duygu, helped by Phillip, was planning to make a paper cast of the surface. Special blotting paper had been ordered from Ankara for this purpose. We started early in the morning, before the Turkish sun was high in the sky. Duygu and Phillip sat inside the ditch experimenting with the paper, carefully cutting it into strips. The day before, they had consolidated the surface by filling in the cracks with primer grout to make sure that the design was secured. I sat above the ditch, positioning my feet between two stones to be able to return to the near exact position the following day. The angle was steep, and the design was not at a straight angle either. Therefore, the combination of steep diagonals together with my vision started to create a drawing totally distorted. I was seeing the design with my contact lenses, and I was drawing it through my reading glasses. I thought of using the bright shape made by a beam of light which was filtering between the canvases of the marquee. It had been placed there, hanging from the ceiling to protect the sight. The shadow moved far too fast for the speed of my drawing, and after having spent a total of about 4 hours on the drawing, I gave it up. I then moved myself down to the ditch, where Duygu and Phillip were busy covering the entire surface with the paper stripes and water. There was little time left to respond to the spiral designs. They would soon be covered with a sort of papier-mâché and left to process and to dry so that an exact cast of the original could be made. Time was running out. I sat between the experts and stripes of white paper, dirtied by the dusty reddish soil that came with wind. The spirals were probably drawn in seconds and with great conviction. To achieve such symmetry with the use of curves is extremely difficult. The whole pattern was probably done from left to right, if the artist was right-handed, and all in one go. An enormous amount of concentration is needed to draw such images accurately. The archaeologist Maria Gimbutas claims that the goddess as energy and unfolding has symbols that, quote, moving up, down, or in a circle, they symbolize cyclical time. The pulse of life demands an unending stream of vital energy to keep it going. Gimbutas, Language, 2077. Needless to say that the symbolic meaning of the spiral has filled in many books, and continues to do so. But for me, as an image maker, the importance was not in the meaning, but in the making. It is possible that a Catalhoyuk designer was commissioned to draw the spirals in the same way that I was. There is little doubt that they were chosen deliberately. But was it the choice of the maker? or the choice of the family of the deceased? Or was it simply the local tradition for burials? However, by drawing them, I was trying to understand how they were made. Some sort of reverse automatism was taking place. Automatic drawing was developed by the surrealists as a means of expressing the subconscious. Having worked in this manner for several years, I was now reversing the process by allowing a free flow of images fed by the spirals in front of me. They kept on passing by my mind in an animated manner. I focused on the black spot that read to me as a snake's eye. I drew from there. The marks of my 2B pencil were too soft for the edges of the spirals. Probably a charcoal stick would reproduce better the spiky edge of the relief traveling across the surface, making the wave. I had none. What did the spiral maker use? A finger? A twig? A bone? How many times did the artist wipe the wall clean, remove the plaster, and applied it again to the fresh surface? It was difficult to know. Meanwhile, I continued to focus in the python looking at me. Beige and grey in a totally uneven surface and precise curves waving up and down with complete certainty. Having been buried for 9,000 years, the stripe of spirals began to change color as it was exposed to the air. The heat of the bitter sun had also an impact on it, and a shrinking process started to take place. The conservation expert applied all her expertise to slow down the process to a maximum. Yet, a year would go by before the whole design was cut out from the wall, fixed on a support, and taken to the Konya Museum, where it will eventually be seen by the public. The following day we returned to the place early in the morning. The spirals were all dressed in white, like a bride's gown. Duygu was now alone. Philippe had already returned to London, and she had to complete the job without help. On the third day, early in the morning, I went up the mound, hoping to try to draw the spirals again. I knew Duygu had already removed the papier-mâché, and I was aiming at being able to draw the spirals for a couple of hours or so. I sat facing the python and tried as carefully as I could to draw the shapes and the sharp indentations with my 2B pencil. Alas, the charcoal bits I found by the fire were far too small to handle to allow me to draw with them. Time was flying, and soon a group of workers arrived. I could not understand what they were saying, but I gathered they came to cover the spirals with geotextile, a synthetic material, and then bags of gravel. I pretended that I did not know, and I continued drawing the python and the spiral next to it. Duygu arrived then and politely asked me to move. Back at my desk, I inspected the sketches I had made. I did fail completely in terms of portraying the plaster designs, but I learned that there was a sophisticated mind behind the spiral maker. There was a 9,000-year gap between us, but for a few hours we shared the same process. We had to deal with similar problems, and above all, we were both trying to produce an object that would mean something to the community.
Okay.